video game crash of 1983 and 84 had a detrimental effect on the video game market because of the large number of craptacular games that came out during that time period. And even though technology was improving, some great games were never to be released. Some of these games did come out later in the form of prototypes, as their ROMs were discovered by different programmers, and sometimes were found in the damnedest places, such as a landfill or at a pawn shop or a yard sale. Several of these prototypes, however, have not yet been found, and therefore have not been dumped and are considered lost media. Hi everyone, and welcome back to Classic Gamer 74. I'm your host, Anthony Gamer, and today we're going to continue on with our subject on lost media for the Atari 2600. In the previous episode, I discussed several prototypes, games that had not been released for the Atari 2600 that have been lost. If you've watched other videos of mine, you've seen that I've featured several prototypes that have been found and dumped and are generally available to the general public. I've also discussed some games that, although they were dumped, they are in the hands of collectors or programmers and have not yet been made available to the general public. But I'm not discussing that in today's video. What I am discussing are these games that have not yet been found. We don't know if a ROM exists or not, and sometimes we have just some rumors, maybe a couple screenshots, some mock-up boxes, and that's all we have. So, without further ado, let's get into the games. As I discussed in the previous episode, the reason we know that some of these lost media exist or might exist is because the companies that made them would advertise them in catalogs. As you can see here, last week we discussed some of the games that had been lost that were being made by 20th Century Fox. So let's go on to another third-party game company, that being Tiger Vision. And our first game for today is Intuition. This was to be released by Tiger Vision. All we have is this description: develop your creativity. This fun game uses forms and color to help enhance your intuitive reaction and creative thinking. Age range 3 years old to adult. So we can kind of assume this was going to be some sort of learning game or something similar to the edutainment games that Atari had put out. We can assume that. Again, all we have is this advertisement from the catalog. We don't have any screenshots. We don't have any video, nothing. So it's kind of up to your own imagination what you think this game could be like. I'm assuming it's going to be something like what's that game, Codebreaker, or something like that. Or it could even be something like that other lost prototype, Holy Moly. Now, many of you are familiar with the game Miner 2049er, and how could you not be? It's probably one of the greatest games ever made. And it's not just me talking, that's several other people. And of course, Tiger Vision actually made the Miner 2049er games for the Atari 2600. Of course, the game was so intense that they actually split it into two separate carts. Now, the second game was called Bounty Bob Strikes Back, and that was released for the Atari 5200 and is actually the most valuable game from that system. Now, what this game was supposed to be is this was going to be Bounty Bob's third game, and it was called Scraper Caper. And the description goes as follows. The adventurous Bounty Bob's travel has taken him to the big city. He immediately is selected to become a member of the Big City Fire Department. The first major fire he fights is in a skyscraper owned by the notorious Yukon Johan. Knowing the trickery of the treacherous Yukon Johan, Bounty Bob must muster all of his skills to rescue the people trapped in the burning skyscraper. Will Bob survive the multiple disasters he faces? You hold the key to his survival in your hands. Now, I'll be the first to admit that I am really surprised this game wasn't released, or even eventually released, if not on the 2600, on another game system, especially with how successful Miner 2049er was. And with The same can be said for Miner 2049er Volume 2. I really do hope that the build for this game or a playable ROM does surface, because I can tell you there's quite a few people out there, myself included, that would like to have another adventure with Bounty Bob. Next up, we have what would have been the fourth and final game in the Sword Quest series, Sword Quest Airworld. Now, as to how much of this is actually done, we really don't know. I've done lots of research, and some people said that they had started on it. Other people said it never got past the planning stage. What you're looking at is a mock-up box that was created. I don't really think that they did get very far on this myself, as the other Sword Quest games were not as big of a smashing success as they thought they would be, even with the contest. So more than likely, this one, who knows? I mean, there may be an early demo of it out there somewhere. Me personally, I was not a big fan of the other three Sword Quest games, although I did like the comic. And they'd already said that a comic book for this one wasn't even started yet. So had the video game crash not happened, had the contest been a bigger success, maybe there would have been an Airworld. In a previous episode, I discussed the CCW games that were made for the Atari 2600. CCW stands for Children's Computer Workshop, as many of us that grew up in the 70s and 80s remember Sesame Street being from the Children's Television Workshop. So these games were all based on Sesame Street characters, and all were learning games, or edutainment games as we like to call them. And they were great, as CCW was able to invest quite a bit of money into these games and make them just top of the line for that time. They still hold up today. I truly believe that kids today will still enjoy these games. As a matter of fact, if you haven't checked them out, check out that episode I did on the CCW games and see maybe if some kids in your life may enjoy it. Unfortunately, because the kids controller and the games that were made for it wasn't that successful, a couple of the planned games for the CCW network were not released. One of them was found and has been dumped, but wasn't quite finished, and that was Rover's Musical Machine. This game is a whole lot of fun, and actually Larry and I did an Anthony and Larry play with the game where we were trying to guess the songs, which is kind of what the game is about, and also about making music. So it's really a fun game, actually. However, there was one game that never got off the planning stage, or still has not yet been found. It's somewhere in there, and that's called Count's Castle. So far, the only thing we have that has the title Count's Castle is this book. As far as the game goes, I've heard that it was completed and ready to go. Then I also heard it was partially completed, and I also heard that it didn't get past the planning stage. Who knows? Let's just hope someday it does come to light, as I myself personally really did enjoy and would enjoy sharing the other CCW games with children. Incidentally, High Tech Expressions would release Countdown, a edutainment game for the Nintendo Entertainment System. And we have to ask, was this the game that was originally called Count's Castle? Well, until a ROM surfaces or we get some screenshots, we'll have no way of knowing. However, Grover's Music Maker wasn't remade. He did get another game that was planned to be released for the Atari 5200. Again, I can't figure out why that game, they even started it, seeing as the kids controller for the 2600 wasn't a big success. But regardless, Grover would, in theory, get another game, and it too was canceled, and it was called Astral Grover. Although the game wasn't released, it has been dumped, and if you have a working 5200, there's some people out there that would be glad to put the ROM on a cart for you. And if you have an emulator, of course, you can try that game out yourself. And also, it was released for several different computers at that time, too. So it's not like that game was totally lost like the Count game was. Next up, we have the arcade game Bagman that was released by Stern in 1982. In this platformer game, you take on the role of Bagman, who is an escaped thief, and you are trying to steal the money from this gold mine. However, the police are trying to stop you, and you have to also look out for runaway minecarts. Overall, this game is really a whole lot of fun. According to rumors, Steve Hostetler for Atari was actually programming the game for the 2600. He was almost finished with the game, and then he got laid off. So hopefully the ROM for this will surface sometime soon. Bagman was actually a big hit in Europe, but kind of really not well known in North America. So I don't know if this was a game they were planning on releasing in PAL format, or if they were going to release it to the rest of the world. Ball Blazer was the first game that was released by Lucasfilms. Many of you probably are familiar with the versions for the 5200 and the 7800 and the versions that were released on other computers. However, did you know that they were actually planning on making a version of this for the 2600? It's true. Todd Fry confirmed it. He guesstimates he was about 20 to 60% of the way finished with it. Honestly, I don't know how this would have held up on the 2600. The split screen and cool graphics. This futuristic soccer game held up very well on the 5200 and 7800, but I'm not so sure about the 2600. When the ROM surfaces, I guess we'll find out. Next up, we have Flesh Gordon. This was based on the adult film from 1974, which is obviously a perverted spoof on Flash Gordon. Not much is really known about the game itself, other than the programmer himself says the game pretty well sucked. He said one of the only cool things about it is that you could hump with the joystick. I don't even want to know. According to rumors, some collectors do have the ROM, but that has never been verified. All we have is this mock-up box. So I don't want to ever speak for the rest of you, but this is one I hope stays lost. And next up, we have Pepper 2. This game was released by Coleco and was released on the ColecoVision. And it was confirmed that they were actually going to make this game for the 2600, kind of like Coleco did with several other games. And like Turbo and Ladybug, this was not released. A mock-up case was found for the game, but it was empty. And according to what I've heard, there are some sheets with graphics out there somewhere. I don't know if they've ever surfaced as of yet. The game itself is quite a lot of fun. Whether you play the ColecoVision version or the arcade, it's a really fun game. It's quite similar to Amadar, where you're trying to fill in the spots here, and your character is kind of like a dual character Pepper, that he's part angel and then devil. It's a really fun game. I really enjoyed it. I didn't get into it till I was a little bit older, but honestly, I would like to have seen what the Atari 2600 version of it would have been like. Wacko is an arcade game that was released in 1982 by Bally Midway. In this game, you take on the role of this alien and you are trying to get rid of these monsters. However, the only way to get them off the screen is to shoot identical pairs. This would have been kind of cool to see on the Atari, I think. Although, I don't know. Some of these games, it's kind of a toss-up as to what they would have been like. As far as I heard, the game was being worked on, but work was abandoned by Bally Midway. And as of yet, no ROM nor even any screenshots have been made available. And next we have Mobiletron 2084. This game is a massive hit. Arcade and versions of it were released for the 5200 as well as other game systems later on.
However, there were plans to release it for the 2600, which I'm not really sure how that would work. As a matter of fact, from what I heard, it didn't really work, and the game had a whole lot of flickering going on. Which makes sense because back in those days, I don't think the 2600 could have handled a game with this magnitude. However, with technology being where it is now, I do believe it could be done. Maybe so one of our favorite homebrew programmers will make their own version of this. We'll have to see. As far as the original ROM goes, it's hard to say how much of it was even complete, and like I said, some people that did see it weren't too happy with it, so maybe it's one of those cases where it's kind of good if it's lost.
Many of us that grew up in the 70s and 80s, and I believe it started in the 60s, remember the show Romper Room. Romper Room was kind of like a preschool setting where you got to learn things along with the kids on the show. Now that is a whole lost media in itself, as not only are these games that I'm going to talk about here in a second were lost, but several episodes of that show itself were lost. Several celebrities actually got to be some of the kids on the show, one of them being Leonardo Dicaprio. And later, when they tried to find the tape of their particular episode, they found out that the people that filmed it would actually show it and then destroy it. So Romper Room itself has probably more lost media than just about anyone else. Actually, that's not true. There is one, although it's arguable, but still, and that's for today's trivia question. What is the name of the show that has the most lost media? You think you know the answer? Wait till the end and see if you're right.
Alright, now this comes from Lost Media Wiki. Okay, the player would join Dobie and his friends in teaching preschoolers about numbers, the alphabet, and much more. The game's designers would have used the latest and proven educational methods to educate and entertain children. These series of programs would have added a new value to their computer system. The games would have been developed and published by Spectravision. 3 titles were in the works: Dobie's First Alphabet, Romper Room's Countdown to Fun, and The Street Where You Live. However, these games were canceled, and of course that is because of the video game crash. What you're looking at here is some concept art, and as far as I know, that is all we have at the moment. In our next episode, we will continue this series when we discuss lost media for the Intellivision. And the answer to today's trivia question, which series has the most lost media, and that is Doctor Who. From the original run, there are 98 episodes that are lost.
And that brings us to the end of today's video. I really hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, don't forget to like for me, and then subscribe if you haven't already, and please share and let your friends and family and coworkers know about this channel. I'm really trying to get up to my goal of 200 subscribers, and I really appreciate all the new subscribers that I have gotten lately. It really means a lot to me. And so therefore, please check out some of my older episodes, and I have arranged some of them by playlist so you can check out sports games or the prototypes or the rare and valuable games. Also, don't forget that in the next Anthony and Red's Top 10, I will announce the winner of the $20 Visa gift card. So check that out to see if you are the big winner. I will have some other contests coming up soon, as well as I will probably reopen my Patreon account as well. So until next time, I'm Anthony Gamer, and I will see you all in the next episode. Until next time, be strong, be safe, be happy, be healthy, and above all, take care of each other, be kind to each other, and end hate of all kinds. See you soon. Bye.